Am I the a-hole for picking up my sister when she didn't want to babysit and causing the parents to lose $250? My female 20 younger sister, female 15, came to visit our city for a few weeks as part of her summer vacation. She split her time between my place and my aunt's, female 30, place. My aunt has 2 toddlers and is currently on maternity leave. While my sister was at my aunt's, she spent most of her time babysitting unpaid, while my aunt went out to see friends, get her nails done, dates with husband, etc. Every single day she was there. She was babysitting for between 4 to 8 hours a day. There was one day where my aunt was gone all day. She came home briefly and went back out again for the evening, leaving my sister with the kids literally all day. A few days ago, I asked my sister if she wanted to come to Dave & Buster's with me and some friends. She tells me she really wants to but can't because she's babysitting again. I told her that she's allowed to decline. She was a bit scared to say no, but yesterday she told my aunt that she can't babysit on Friday, today. My aunt says, too bad. They have a dinner reservation at an expensive restaurant and will lose the deposit, $250, if they don't show up. My sister told my aunt that she was exhausted from babysitting, but my aunt basically said, sorry, but she has to stay and watch the kids. My sister was disappointed, but didn't put up any more fight. At that point, I decided to intervene and told my aunt I'd be picking up my sister on Friday, and that's the end of it. She sent me a whole bunch of texts after that, but honestly, I didn't reply or even read them. I show up to pick up my sister and my aunt comes out to my car yelling at me. She says it's not my business what my sister does, and she's staying. I ignored my aunt and saw my sister at the door and yelled over to her to come get in the car. She did. My aunt couldn't believe that she was actually leaving and started yelling at my sister too. My sister looked scared, but I told her to just get in the car. We drove away. They couldn't find a replacement babysitter last minute and ended up missing the reservation and being charged for that cancellation. My mom is with me on this and said I did good for getting my sister out of the house. But another aunt heard about the story and she told me I shouldn't have picked up my sister after aunt number 1 said she already has dinner reservations. She also said that I shouldn't have intervened and should have let my sister learn to stand up for herself. So now I am questioning if I should have let my sister stay there and learn a lesson in standing up to people or if I did the right thing. Am I the a-hole for picking up my sister and leaving? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm glad your mom is on your sister's side. She should learn to stick up for herself? She's 15 and being taken advantage of by her adult aunt. You did the right thing. Edited to add, the person who needs to learn here is your aunt, not to take advantage of her niece. The mom could also file against the aunt for not paying the little sister for performing childcare. Do they realize that? Not the a-hole, and thank you for doing that. Your sister is not free babysitting and not at the whim of your aunt. Also, shouldn't your aunt be bonding with the kids? Not sure how long maternity leave is where you are, but even a year. I'd expect the mother to be with baby a little more. I know parents need breaks, but a whole day? Not the a-hole. 18 months maternity leave. I don't have kids, so maybe I don't know how hard it is. But I was starting to feel like the babysitting was excessive, especially since my aunt has been off work for almost a year already and gets lots of help from her in-laws with the kids. I just didn't think it's my 15-year-old sister's responsibility for helping my aunt so much on her summer break. Not the a-hole, but why was your mother allowing this to happen? Not the a-hole. Yes, of course your 15-year-old sister needs to learn how to stand up for herself. All 15-year-olds do. And you know how they learn that? By having an adult, like yourself, model how to set boundaries and not let them be taken advantage of. She needed you to do this, so next time she can do it herself. I'm glad your mom is on your side and your sister's side. You did good. You're a great big sister. Your aunt sucks and is cheap AF. If she can't afford a $250 deposit for a reservation, she can sure as heck afford to pay a babysitter. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law why I'm filing for full custody? My 28 female ex-boyfriend Mark, 30 male, has a girlfriend Janet, 32 female. Janet isn't a very family-oriented person and hates kids, which is ironic because me and Mark have a daughter, Cora. Recently, a situation came up where Janet tried to punish Cora by locking her out the house. We all lived around forests, so anything could have happened to her. Cora called me and I ended up picking her up and calling Mark because Janet wasn't answering the door. I called Mark and told him what happened, and he told me to at least listen to Janet's side of the story. I told him I didn't care about her side because there's no behavior that could allow an adult to lock a 12-year-old out the house. It's honestly appalling to me. I ended finding out the full story and my mind still didn't change about how I felt. I talked to my daughter about how she would feel if I were to file for full custody, and she said she didn't care as long as she wasn't around Janet. I told Mark that I was filing for full, and he told his mom and she started texting me on Facebook super angry. Apparently, Mark and Janet told a different story than what actually happened and excluded the locking out the house part to make me and Cora look bad. So I ended up telling Mark's mom, and she apologized. And from what I was told, she told Mark that he was a horrible father and wouldn't talk to him if he decided to continue the relationship between him and Janet. Mark is now saying that I'm a bad person and a bad mom. My sister thinks that I went too far and the situation could have been talked about. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall. She locked your child out of the house. That is not appropriate at all, but especially not as a punishment. Janet did something that endangered your child, and she knew it was unreasonable, which is why she and Mark are lying to everyone. Good for you for protecting your kid, and your daughter's grandmother is a good one. Also, Opie needs to file for emergency protective custody until the hearing for full custody so the child doesn't have to go back. Not the a-hole. As part of the emergency protective custody, Opie should also file a police report. I'm not a lawyer, but how can it be legal for someone to lock a minor out of their home? My mother did it to me at about that age, except I was naked and it was January or February in Wisconsin, so cold and snowy. I started screaming for the neighbors, and she, being a former social worker, let me back in real fast. A few winters ago, someone in our neighborhood did that and a child passed away. Never lock a child out of the house, no matter the weather. It's horrifying that after being a social worker, she thought that was in any way appropriate. I'm sorry that happened to you. Not the a-hole. You're right, and this has nothing to do with where you live. There is no situation that warrants locking a 12-year-old out of their own home. Not ever. That's mistreatment/neglect. Period. And as someone literally old enough to be your mom, I'm so sorry. Because that must have been genuinely terrifying for Cora and horrible for you to hear as a mom. It's one thing not to get along with someone or to have reasonable parenting disagreements, but I cannot imagine how frightening it must be to find out that someone to whom you have entrusted the safety of your child has abused that responsibility so egregiously. You don't need to like Janet or even get along with her or Mark, but you absolutely have a right to know that when Cora is at their home, she is safe. And she is not safe with an adult who thinks that it is appropriate to lock her out at the age of 12. You're right to file for sole custody. This is a safety issue. You are clearly not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my stepdaughter is not entitled to my late ex-wife or daughter's money? I am married to Ashley and our girls from previous relationships are both 17. My ex-wife was Sam. She and I were never a great couple, but we were great friends and great parents/co-parents. So we stayed very close after the divorce, and I was aware she had started saving for our daughter's future education. We had reached somewhat of a compromise on how to handle that. I did most of the spending on her adolescent activities and extras, so all her extracurricular activities, hobbies, and for the most part gifts that we shared, while she saved for the future in an effective way. I never knew how much was in the account until 2 years ago when my ex died. It was then I learned she had saved a hefty amount, and that aside for allowing for her funeral expenses, she had left money for our daughter to use as she saw fit outside of the college money. Ashley and I married 7 years ago, and at the time we had discussed money for the girls, etc. I explained I was not saving, but my ex-wife was. She had not started anything for her daughter at that point, and her ex was not saving either. So we started to put a little by when we could, but we were never able to save huge chunks at a time. After Sam died, money became a much larger issue. Ashley was upset to learn my daughter had a considerate amount more than my stepdaughter for college, and that she had money to spare. It only became a bigger deal this past May. My daughter told me she had decided to do community college in her mom's hometown so she could be close to her grandparents for a while, and could still follow her dreams. Ashley then brought up how some of that money could go to my stepdaughter. I told her no, that it was not our money. And even if she tried to suggest that it would be mine seeing as my daughter is a minor, I pointed out that it would be stealing to just take from her, and I had never contributed to that fund directly, and it would be taking my ex-wife's money. Ashley went off about Sam putting so much away when she knew our daughter had a stepsister, and how she was selfish to make her so much better off than her only sibling. I told her she needed to get over that, because Sam only had one child to think about, and it wasn't her job to think about my stepdaughter, or even any bio kids I could have had after our divorce. Ashley told me to think about my stepdaughter. I told her my stepdaughter is not entitled to my daughter's money or my ex-wife's money, whichever way she wanted to look at it. She asked how I could be so callous about her daughter's disadvantage. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex-wife saved it for your daughter, not the stepdaughter, so she's not entitled to any of it. Those were my thoughts. Those are the facts. It's not even yours. It was saved by your ex-wife for her daughter. I think she would turn in her grave if you caved in and used some of it for your stepdaughter. Not the a-hole. Sam saved for her daughter. Her only daughter. Not for a stranger's kid who she had no responsibility for. Don't punish your daughter by taking away her college fund that her mother set up for her, just because your wife doesn't know how to make good financial decisions for her kid. I would never take from my daughter. I would also never expect Sam to have saved or given money for my stepdaughter. Mostly, I was just questioning my own handling of saying no and staying firm, whether I lack more care/compassion in this matter. You're definitely in the right. That money is for your daughter and your daughter only. You handled it well. Not the a-hole, but definitely explain to your daughter that it is her money left by her mother. It seems like she has a good idea of what she wants to do with it. Maybe talk to her about financial responsibility and all of that as well. I feel like your current wife might be the type to try and guilt your daughter into giving up some of the money or sharing. I don't believe my wife would go that far. I do believe this might not be over with her and me, but it will change our marriage incredibly if she continues to push for this. My daughter wouldn't share with her stepsister. Neither would my stepdaughter. The girls are not close and don't have a sisterly relationship. It's fine, but they are not each other's biggest fans. I also have the kind of relationship with my daughter where she would tell me if someone was pressuring her. Still, have the conversation so she's forewarned. Look at it this way. Did you expect your wife to pressure you as she has over all of this? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my daughter and son away for the weekend without my stepkids? I have 4 children. 2 bio children who are 17 and 15 and 2 stepchildren who are 12 and 11. I was a widower when I met my current wife 7 years ago. My first wife had passed 3 years before meeting my current wife, and she was a single mom whose ex was not in the kids' lives at all. So they came to see me as dad, and I love them. But I admit my love for them did come at the expense of my kids somewhat. Something that only truly stuck with me recently when my bio children told me they were done with any and all family time, that we were not a family, that they wanted to go live with their grandparents in another state. I was shocked. I had thought I had done a good job of being there for them and providing them with a family. We talked. They explained how to them my wife and stepchildren were not people they loved and considered family, and that by never getting time with just me, they felt like they had lost their whole family, that they did not consider it family time when we were all together. My daughter told me she was pretty much ready to leave and had even tried to graduate early, but due to her learning disability she was unsuccessful. It was a huge wake-up call for me. I had sat and discussed what was going on with my wife, and I told her I wanted to take my son and daughter away for the weekend, just the 3 of us. It wasn't until I got back that my wife told me my stepchildren had told her they were very upset, and she decided it was unfair that I left them behind and made them feel like they were less my kids. They never said anything to me before when I spoke to them, but when I got back they told me they felt it was unfair and that I should be their real dad too. I explained we could do something just the 3 of us, but that my son and daughter needed some time with just me. I am making much more of an effort to make my bio kids feel like they have not lost me and that they can be honest and open with me. My wife wanted to do something with my bios while I spent time with my stepkids since we got back. My bio kids weren't interested, which turned into my wife being very upset and telling me again that I did a wrong thing taking my bios for the weekend but not my stepchildren. She said I showed my kids that she and my stepkids, are not family. I told her I could not change their feelings after the damage I did, but that maybe in time if they feel like they haven't lost me, they could have a better relationship with them as well. but I told her firmly I did what I needed to do for my relationship with my older two children. She said it should never come at the expense of the younger kids. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your wife certainly is. It seems to me that while you were gone over the weekend with your kids, she stirred a pot with her kids, and that is why they're now saying what they're saying. You absolutely did a right thing, OP, because if not, once they were able to leave, they would and go no contact with you. Let her know that the way her kids feel about one weekend is what your children have been feeling for the last 7 years. You did good stepping up for your stepkids, but it was the cost of your relationship with your kids, and you're fixing that now. Also, she can't force time with your kids because currently they feel spiteful towards her. Because in their minds, she stole you/your time from them in favor of a new family with her, and they're not wrong. Stay firm with your wife and advise therapy/counseling for everyone involved, either group and solo. Keep listening to your kids' feelings and make sure they feel heard. Agree, your wife is the a-hole. She started the drama while you were gone, and if she ever wants a relationship with your kids, she needs to understand how they are feeling and not be offended when they don't want to spend time with her. Maybe as things improve and you give it some time, they may come around, but forcing them to do anything with her will just make it worse. I'm glad you're refocused on your kids, and you shouldn't let her deter you. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother or his family? I, 24 female, have recently bought my own home. Mom insisted I invite my brother, 40 male, and his family over to celebrate. For background, my brother hasn't amounted to anything in his life despite my parents supporting him through their financial highs and abysmal lows. I remember when he found out he wouldn't be getting any inheritance from my parents, and the rest would be divided up between my nephew from his first marriage and myself, because according to my parents, we have both done something with our lives, while his bad decisions have left him in a rent trap and a massive amount of unnecessary debt. I want to also mention that for a long time, my parents barely managed to keep a roof over our heads. I'd asked that my brother help make ends meet, which he later admitted he only did because he thought it would be worth it when they die and he inherits the place. Fast forward to last night, and I am showing them around. It's a big place, and a little fancy, I will admit, but I know I deserve the life I have now. Because throughout my teenage years, I had to give up my scholarship money to help pay off his debts, my free time and study time to look after his son, and I even had to drop out of high school because I was skipping class to work. That's how bad things were. But I went to a trade school and got 3 diplomas in engineering and programming before finishing my degree 2 years ago, all while juggling a full-time job so I could have experience on my resume when I graduated. After dinner, my brother found me on the balcony and I had to pretend I wasn't hiding from him. He started asking about what my plan was, now that I had a house and very little of the mortgage left to pay off. I was honest and said I was probably going to work abroad, travel and save for retirement. He asked me where it all goes when I die, and I told him his son, since he's hardworking and deserves it the most. He got angry and asked why not him and his family, to which I told him that I had no interest in leaving anything for his family because he has no interest in me and our parents aside from what he can get from us. His wife came in screaming, calling me selfish for not helping my brother and my very own niece, to which I replied, I'm going to tell you the same thing you'll hear from your landlord when you no doubt fail to make rent for the 3rd month in a row. Get out of my house. Mom heard this and yelled at me, before saying we both ruined what was supposed to be a lovely night. His wife said my elitism and selfishness ruined the night, and not them for asking for a little help, since I clearly could, or at least pay for their daughter to go to a private school and secure her future. She's 3. After they left, Mom said I should at least consider helping, and that he can't help the situation that is in. I told her that if she really doesn't see why that's a bad idea, then she should leave as well. And now either of my parents are answering my calls. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I don't understand why the 40-year-old brother thinks he's going to outlive OP. Not the a-hole. If anything, he owes you. He is diagnosed with strong narcissistic traits. Plus, he likes to think and act like he is much younger than he actually is, and often lies about his age. Or, hear me out, he has literally contemplated getting rid of you. What he said was creepy AF. I would be going very, very low contact with him if at all. Not the a-hole. I find it odd that your parents, having learned the lesson themselves that your brother is a leech, are now asking you to take over the burden of subsidizing him. My parents planned to have me so that my brother would not be alone when they died. My guess would be that they don't like how their unfair parenting has ruined any chance of us having a meaningful bond. I think if I gave in and helped him, then they'd interpret it as us being a real brother and sister, instead of what it would actually be, his sister pitying him. Not stay home. Why is your brother thinking about an inheritance from you when you're younger and will likely outlive him? Safety-wise, don't leave anything to him. Who knows if he would hurt you to get that money? Why should you pay for anything for your nieces and nephews? They aren't your kids. Their costs are your brother's problem. Now, if you want to open accounts to help them because you care for them, then do that. But make sure your brother and his wife have zero access to it. And if you don't want to do that, then don't. They're the one that choose to have kids, not you. It's not your problem or responsibility. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my baby half-brother after the way my stepmom and dad treated me? Hi, I have divorced parents. I currently live with my mom and my mom's boyfriend, but my dad lives with his new wife that we will call Eve. Eve and I have never been close, to be honest. Last year on July, she wrote a 400-word paragraph to my mom on how much she despises me and doesn't like the fact that I visit, even though I do not visit to see her. I only visit to see my dad and my great-grandma who lives with them and absolutely have no interest in her. Not only that, but she has set up rules my dad has to follow, and she made a list of things that I found she once done before her birthday. She basically manipulates my dad, and I'm very sure she uses him for money. Anyway, now my relationship with my dad has been torn apart because of her manipulation. For example, my grandpa had a 70th birthday that I only found out because a relative had posted it on their Facebook. That I had no clue of, even though they both went to it and didn't even notify me. Plus, the worst part is that they had a wedding that also I only knew about through relatives' Facebook post. Turns out my stepmom only wanted to invite important people, even though I am her husband's daughter. I was pretty angry by that, but a real shocker came when she got pregnant. She nor my dad said anything about it too, and I only found out through my grandma. Then this summer, my half-brother is born. To be honest, I had no reaction, but still congratulated them because I am not a rude person. Now here comes the part I am still mad about. I asked if I could visit my dad, and turns out my stepmom wrote a response. I realized it by the way the message was written, which basically said that no strangers are allowed at the moment. I got angry. I'm not nobody's daughter no more, and a stranger? So when a while later they invited me to see my half-brother, I just left them on read. And I haven't replied since, and it has been 2 weeks. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Good lord. Tell your dad to grow a freaking spine. I would have said grow a pair, but apparently he has 2 children now. His new wife has them in her purse. Yep, good luck getting those out anytime soon. He gift-wrapped them for her. Best to just pretend you don't have a dad and move on. It seems like this is all the step-monster, but your father is allowing her to write and deliver these manifestos and they're not standing up for you. You deserve better. Not the a-hole, and I'd tell your mom to go to court to increase financial support since you are no longer spending any time with your dad. If he tries to fight it, tell the court you feel unsafe around his wife. Show them the messages she sent to you and your mom, and therefore would need your dad to make arrangements to only have you when she isn't around. My mom was forced to sell her house, which is worth approximately $800K, to my dad for about $30K because everyone thought my mom was the bad guy for divorcing my dad. And everyone was on his side. Plus, my mom tells me sometimes he doesn't even pay child support or pay the mortgage for the house. I wish was lying about this. Even more reason to take him to court. He owes her back pay plus would probably be ordered to pay more since he has no physical custody of you anymore. The courts can and frequently will garnish his wages or even his tax refund, if in the US, to ensure the support gets paid. Not the a-hole. You didn't share your age. But it sounds like unless there is court-ordered visitation, you're probably old enough to cut ties with your dad. Tell him exactly why, so he fully understands the damage he has allowed his wife to make. I'm 14, nearly 15. I was a bit scared my post would be terminated because of my age, so I just didn't post it. I hope that makes sense. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking him and his 12-year-old daughter out over spilled water? I started seeing a guy 2 years ago, and I thought things were going well enough to entertain the idea of living together, but we decided to do a trial run first to see if it could work, because we both have children and busy schedules. He has full custody of his one child, 12 female named Becca. I have 2 sons, 8 and 5, also having full custody. We gave this trial run a month, as that is when his lease went up anyways. The kids get along great, but everything else is spiraling and I feel like I'm losing my head. I don't know what is going on, but Becca lies like a rug about the stupidest things. She takes no accountability for anything she does, and if you call her out on it, she immediately goes into full-blown sub-story about why she lies. Like, I just feel like the stupidest kid ever and that's why I lie all the time. And it's truly stupid things. Like she was painting her fingernails in the den after we told her to do it in her room. My son has asthma and can't handle the smell. And she will dead center stare you in the face and say she wasn't painting her nails, even though the nail polish is sitting right in front of her. Or when she doodles on the walls, and this is rental, with her makeup, and then lies and says it wasn't her. She will actually yell at you if you catch her and scream, "What? I didn't do anything," before you even say anything to her. She has even ripped holes in the mattress I gave her. Then there was today. My peace is beyond disrupted at this point already, so I find myself constantly having to micromanage a lying 12-year-old and make sure she isn't destroying my property. Well, today she puts my youngest up on the counter, he's 5, and turns on the faucet. She then starts splashing him and whatever else. I see it on the motion camera and go running downstairs. And there is easily a half-gallon water covering my kitchen floor at this point. All my mail is drenched. My car key fob is now busted from water damage, etc. I tell them both to get to their rooms and go decompress in the bathroom, only to find that the 12-year-old had destroyed that room as well. She had just taken a shower. Water all over the place, and seeping into the hardwood floor because the floor mat is drenched. She dumped out all mine and my son's shampoo and left it in her teapot still in the tub. I lost it. I called her father inside and said they need to leave. This is not worth it to me as I feel like I'm losing my mind. He says I'm being pathetic over spilled water, when in all actuality, it's his kid destroying my house in peace. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole and wow. He said you are pathetic? Holy turd balls. What an awful parent and partner. Good thing you did a trial. The kid needs therapy. The kid needs discipline, consequences, and adequate parenting more like. Not the a-hole. You're making the right call for yourself and your child. His lack of parenting is abysmal. He said she has always been like this, and that her therapist says it's just her way of working through things. Therefore, never steps in and does anything. Well, at least we know where she gets the line from, because a therapist would not say that, nor would they tell him to just let her keep doing it. Not stay home. At 12, she's way too old to be destroying things for fun and blatantly lying about it. If she was 5, I'd say you just need to work on setting better boundaries/clear consequences. But it sounds like this girl knows exactly what she's doing, and her dad is enabling and minimizing this behavior. Becca has problems, and your boyfriend clearly isn't going to do anything about it. Definitely don't make this move permanent. If I were you, I'd reevaluate this whole relationship. I thought this. I also initially thought her actions might be intentional and coming from a place of resentment towards the OP. If her dad is full custody, maybe she feels as though a mother figure has been replaced and a change in environment has stressed her out. But after reading OP's response, the dad has excused the behavior by saying her therapist claims this is the child's way of dealing with things and to leave her to it. No therapist would suggest this, and I doubt her dad has even taken her to one. She's old enough to understand the consequences of her actions, and it's clear the dad hasn't disciplined her, taken her to a behavioral therapist, or parented her correctly. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's a divorced mom? A bit of background. My sister has been divorced from her ex-husband for the last 3 years, and they have 2 children. They have joint legal custody and nearly equal parenting time, though he has 2 days a month more than she does because of her work schedule. He makes a lot more than she does, and even though he has more parenting time, he pays her child support, covers their children's insurance, and pays for their private school. From what my sister has told me, financially, the divorce was good for her. They actually get along very well for exes and has been great with our family. We always get invites to things like birthday parties and such. I'm sure someone will ask the reason they got divorced. And according to my sister, she wasn't happy and wanted out. Nobody has accused the other of anything bad, but my sister is a handful. She started dating as soon as they separated, while it took him a lot longer. But I don't think there was any sort of affair or partner in waiting. Now, back on Father's Day, a mutual friend made a charming post about her late ex-husband. What a great dad he was, and how her kids miss him. I made a nice comment and scrolled on. Later, another friend made a crap post about moms having to do everything due to absent dads. I don't know who the person was with the first comment, but there was several who joined in, including my sister. I normally just scroll on in these sorts of situations, but my sister said something to the effect of her being a single mom and joined in on the crapping on dad's fest. It angered me, so I replied to her that she was completely tone deaf, that she needed to delete her comments. True to her norm, instead of saying whoops and deleting her comment, she fired back. So I told her that she's not a single mom. She's a divorced mom with an ex-husband who's very involved, has the kids more than she does, and pays for everything. Not long after, the OP deleted the whole crap show. I let it go, but then come to find out my sister is mad at me. I get it if her claim was I don't know the real situation and Rex is really some sort of monster, but she's just mad that I called her out on Facebook and diminished her by saying she wasn't a single mom. Okay, I'm going to say not the a-hole on this and I'm fully prepared to get downvoted. But personally, I agree with you, and it annoys me as well. Technically, your sister is single relationship-wise, and a parent, so there is that argument. But when people traditionally think of a single mom or dad, they think of someone parenting on their own, with no help. If you have an active ex, you aren't alone. In fact, you get even more breaks than married moms. True, you are on 24/7 when you have the kids, but you get entire weekends off or even the whole week. Married parents don't get that. We have friends that are truly single parents, and her claiming to be in the same category seems wrong to me. I was raised by a truly single parent. My dad died, and I have a hard time when divorced parents say they're single parents in situations where both parents are involved. Not stay home. It might have been better handled in private, but sometimes people need to be questioned and held accountable for what they are saying publicly. From everything you mentioned, it seems like her ex is a caring parent, and she should not be telling others differently if it is not true. If she was talking trash on her own thread, I would have let it go, but not on someone else's who was lamenting the loss of her ex and her kids missing him. Not stay home. Your sister sounds like my ex-sister-in-law. She walked away on a marriage/kid because, and this is in court documents, she didn't feel like being married with a kid anymore. She's been a drama queen and liar ever since the divorce. Good for you for putting her in her place. That's your niece/nephew's dad she is, apparently, lying about for pity points in social media. To hell with her. She admits her ex is a great guy, she just didn't love him. Given her combative nature, it was probably fairer for her to end the marriage than just going through the motions.